All right, so you know how everyone's talking about the Internet of Things these days? Smart homes, self-driving cars, it's everywhere you turn. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but today we're going deeper. What's the real impact of IoT, not just on our tech, but on our lives?
It's more than just a buzzword, that's for sure.
And to help us break it all down, I've got expert name with us. He's got the inside track on how these systems really work.
Glad to be here.
So no more surface level stuff.
Yeah.
Ready to dive in.
Absolutely. I think the first thing to remember is IoT isn't just about having more internet, right? It's about fundamentally changing how things, well, interact. We're not just talking about your phone and your laptop chatting it up anymore. It's about your thermostat talking to your lights, your car talking to the city grid. It's like objects are becoming, well, almost like active participants in a network, not just tools.
Okay, now that's a thought your house having a whole conversation you're not even in on. But let's back up for a second. How does this even work? What makes a toaster smart anyway?
It's all about embedding systems that can collect data and then, communicate. So tiny sensors, software, even actuators that let a device actually take action.
Actuators.
Yeah, they make things move.
Yeah.
Like take a smart thermostat. It doesn't just show you the temperature anymore, right?
Mm.
It's monitoring how you use it, learning your preferences, and then adjusting itself to save energy.
So it's like anticipating what I need before I even realize it. Pretty cool.
Exactly.
But we've all heard the smart home thing before. What are some other, maybe less obvious examples of where IoT is making a real difference?
Think bigger, like smart city initiatives. Did you know Songdo, South Korea, uses sensors to manage everything from how traffic flows to, get this, waste disposal? They've practically eliminated trash cans on the streets.
Hold on. No trash cans. How does that even...
Sensors.
That's wild. Okay, you officially blew my mind. So from a thermostat to a whole city, this tech has some serious reach. What gets you excited about the potential? Where does IoT really shine?
For me, it's all about the data. That's the gold mine right there. Let's say you've got industrial applications. We can put sensors on machines now, monitor performance in real time.
Okay.
Imagine being able to predict, like, when equipment's going to fail before it happens.
No more downtime, just keeps things humming along.
Exactly. Smoother and more efficient.
Music to any factory owner's ears. But what about us regular folks? What about healthcare?
Now that's where things get really interesting.
Healthcare and the Internet of Things. That's got to be huge, right? We're talking about devices that can track what our every move, every heartbeat.
It's not just about tracking, though. It's about what we can actually do with all that information. Imagine, like your smartwatch, right? It doesn't just tell you your heart rate anymore. It picks up on something off and alerts your doctor before you even feel anything.
Okay, so we're talking like sci-fi becoming reality. But with all this data flying around, this connectivity, there's this big question I got to ask. What about security?
Yeah, the elephant in the room, for sure. It's the other side of the coin, all this interconnectedness. And honestly, it's where things get kind of messy.
Messy how? Give it to me straight. What are the real risks?
Well, think about it. Every single device that's connected, that's a potential way in for a hacker. And obviously, the more devices there are, the more vulnerable you become.
Right, more targets.
Exactly. But it's not just the sheer number. It's also... there's a real lack of standardization.
Standardization? You mean like there's no one-size-fits-all security solution for all this tech?
Exactly. You've got devices running on different systems, different communication protocols, different security. Well, some don't even really have security. It's a nightmare for the companies making it and, well, a dream come true for anyone looking to cause trouble.
So it's like trying to lock up a house with 100 doors and no one key that fits them all.
Pretty much.
Okay, so what are these companies doing about it? Are they just like tossing these devices out there and hoping for the best?
Some, maybe. But the ones who are, on the ball, they're starting to build security in from the ground up. Secure boot processes, using encryption to protect data, both when it's being sent and when it's just sitting there. Some are even using this thing called zero trust architecture.
Zero trust. Sounds intense.
It is. Basically, it's like you assume that no user, no device can be trusted, even if they're already inside the network. Like you got to show your ID at every door, even if you already did at the front gate.
Okay, so in a world where any device could be compromised, better safe than sorry.
Right.
But this is all pretty high-level stuff. For those of us at home using this tech every day,
right,
what can we do to stay safe?
Honestly, a lot of it's common sense. Use good passwords, unique ones for each thing, especially your router. And, oh, this is huge, turn on that two-factor authentication wherever you can.
Two-factor, that's the one where they text a code to your phone, right?
Yep, that's it. It's a pain, I know, but it adds that extra layer of protection. it could be the difference between a minor annoyance and, having your whole life hacked. But honestly, even before all that, be choosy about what you connect. Like, does your toaster really need to be on the internet?
Okay, good point. Sometimes simpler is safer.
Right.
But there's one thing I'm still not getting. What's the worst that could happen? Like, yeah, someone hacks my smart speaker, plays annoying music, big deal.
See, that's the thing. It's not just about some random device getting hacked. Remember we talked about botnets earlier?
The networks of hacked devices, yeah, those still kind of freak me out.
Rightfully so. Now imagine that, but instead of just messing with people, they're using those devices to attack, I don't know, a bank, a hospital, even the power grid.
Hold on, are you saying our toasters and thermostats could be used to launch a cyber attack? That sounds like something out of a movie.
And yet, here we are. It's not even theoretical anymore. We're already seeing these botnet attacks happening, and they're getting more sophisticated all the time. So, yeah, the stakes are pretty high.
Okay, I'm officially concerned. But we're not, helpless here, are we? What does the future hold for IoT security? Are we just stuck in this back and forth with the hackers forever?
Not necessarily. There's some really cool stuff happening with AI-powered security systems. They can spot problems and actually react way faster than humans can.
AI to the rescue. Tell me more.
Think of it like, I don't know, a digital security guard, but one that never sleeps and can analyze, mountains of data to find threats and actually shut them down. It's still early days, but AI could be a game changer for how we secure all this stuff.
Okay, so there's hope. But before we get too optimistic, there's another side to all this. What about the ethics of it all? I mean, these devices are collecting a ton of personal information. Who's watching the watchers,
Million-dollar question, right? As this tech gets more and more ingrained in our lives, we really got to be having those tough conversations about privacy, security, the ethics of it all. Who does own that data? What are they doing with it? And these aren't just technical questions. They're about society as a whole.
It's not just about convenience anymore, that's for sure. There's some big questions we need to answer. So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for the Internet of Things?
Honestly, it's being written right now. And it's up to all of us, the people buying this stuff, the companies making it, the governments regulating it, to do it right. But one thing's for sure, this technology isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's going to get even bigger.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Smart toasters, AI security guards, even some pretty big ethical questions. But let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. What does all this mean for the average person like you and me, just trying to navigate this increasingly connected world?
I think the key takeaway is to be informed. We can't just blindly buy into every new gadget or cool feature without, thinking about what it might mean.
So no more impulse purchases on the latest and greatest smart whatever.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, maybe think twice before you click buy now.
Okay, fair enough. But seriously, how do we find that balance, between making the most of what IoT has to offer and not putting ourselves at risk?
Honestly, it starts with awareness, understanding what these devices do, the information they're collecting, how it could be used, good or bad.
So do your research.
Exactly.
But with all this talk about security risks and ethical dilemmas, it's easy to feel kind of powerless, what can we actually do?
I'd say the most important thing is to remember you're not powerless. You have choices. You can decide what you connect to the internet, what information you're comfortable sharing, what level of risk you can live with.
Right, like using strong passwords, turning on that two-factor authentication, maybe even deciding your fridge doesn't need to be online.
Exactly. And beyond what we can do individually, we've got to demand better from the companies making these devices and, the people setting the rules. Stronger security standards, responsible data practices, regulations that actually protect people without, stifling innovation.
So it's a team effort.
100%.
Companies have got to build security into their products from the get-go. And we need those policymakers to set up some ground rules that, keep everyone safe while still letting this technology grow.
Absolutely. It's a tough balance to strike, but if we want the Internet of Things to reach its full potential and do it safely, that's what we got to do.
Well said. This has been, a real eye-opener, to say the least. We've talked about the amazing things IoT can do, the very real risks that come with it, and maybe most importantly, what we can do to shape its future. So next time you see a smart device, remember it's not just about convenience anymore. It's about making smart choices, thinking about the trade-offs, because the future of the Internet of Things, it isn't something that just happens to us. We're building it together.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of IoT. And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected.